Hello everyone, thanks for joining our webinar today. I'm Ryan. By my side is Amanda. We'll host this webinar together.
Good Friday afternoon. Thank you for streaming with us.
Today we're going to talk about pesticide products in China and learn about market situation of some main products. Let's have a check about today's content. Supply and demand of China's pesticide industry in Q1 to Q3 of 2020. Price trends and outlook of main pesticides products. Market situation of October of 2020. Supply, demand and price.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's check the supply and demand of pesticide and learn about some background about what happened in China pesticide market in 2020. Entering 2020, global supply chain has been disrupted and cost of raw material for pesticide production increased due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As China's pesticide manufacturers gradually resume production, domestic demand can be met, but export of pesticide products was hampered. In addition, increasingly strict environmental protection policies and safety production supervision resulted in a tight supply of pesticides. Earlier this year, agrochemical supply chains were not well secured because of natural disaster. In general, formulation manufacturers rushed to stock up for production around the Spring Festival, causing a small peak in pesticide technical stocking. But with the Spring Festival and heavy snow in North China, logistics was shut down earlier, making many manufacturers fail to complete their stocking plans. In February, affected by COVID-19, the industry's operating rate was at a record low, leading to a rebound in prices after the inventories were consumed. Owing to poor logistics, neither finished products nor raw material can be delivered, aggravating the tight supply of pesticides.
Indeed, the pandemic directly caused the low operating rate of pesticides. The prices of raw materials and intermediates increased with supply being tight, and the cost of labor, logistics, and epidemic prevention and control all went up, which drove the production cost up in March. Prices of some pesticides were raised repeatedly due to low inventory, insufficient operating rate, and supply shortage. In April, it's still a peak season for agrochemical production. The market transaction volumes witnessed daily growth. During these months, domestic market product supply tended to be stable, thanks to the lacking of overseas demand and steadily increasing operating rates.
That's true. Low overseas demand and the steady increase in operating rate made stocks of popular products abundant. That's why prices fell sharply. Only a few niche products were still in tight supply with prices high. The pressure on the supply chain appears to be easing. However, formulations consumption in the end market slowed down due to unfavorable weather in May.
Yes, there have been a lot of extreme weather and disaster this year. And in the second half, in June, the market demand weakened when entering the end of peak season. In the northwest and northeast China, there were large amounts of pesticide products on the market, and the supply of pesticide technical was stable. In July, the domestic market gradually entered the off-season, with sporadic replenishment orders occurring in the northern and southern markets, owing to the weak demand in the overseas market caused by the epidemic in the short term. Even though the domestic operating rates increased, the transaction was small.
Yeah, with the off-season, sluggish export demand and high operating rate, the inventory increased continually, except that some products with low inventories were in short supply by climate disaster and other reasons. In August, with weak overseas demand and still increasing capacity utilization rate in northeast and northwest China, the inventories were abundant. In September, The pesticide market supply was stable. Upstream manufacturers were eager to sell their products, while downstream customers held a wait-and-see attitude.
The pandemic does bring some effects to the market. In Q1 to Q3, the balance of supply and demand was rather volatile. Let's check the price trend during Q1 to Q3.
In January 2020, with suspended logistics and weak market demand caused by the Spring Festival holiday, the pesticide market was relatively stable, but prices for more than half all pesticide products had been in downward trend since a year ago. In February, global supply chain was disrupted, and the cost of raw material for pesticide production went up, affected by the COVID-19 epidemic. In March, pesticide market recovered. The inventories of large products were sufficient, but those of small products were low, resulting in a sharp increase in the price of small products. It was noting that the operating rate in March was still at a low level.
Yes, but fortunately, the operating rate tended to be steadily increased in April. Even though this was the peak season for chemical production, the market supply tended to be stable with a steadily increasing operating rates, and pesticide transaction volume went up day by day. The overseas demand was weak. Based on the above, stocks of large products were still sufficient, with prices falling slightly. But prices of small products were still high, due to shortage of supply caused by low inventory and insufficient operating rates. In May, prices of both insecticides technical and fungicide technical experienced a significant decline. As to herbicide technical, the price of glyphosate technical rebounded slightly. Prices of pesticide technicals showed an overall downward trend as the number of products with falling price increased. In June, due to the low cost of raw materials, the cost support for the price of pesticide technical weakened. In July, pesticide market entered the off-season, but domestic operating rates did not go down, which drove up the inventory continually. Prices of insecticides and fungicides continued to fall sharply. The price of yellow phosphorus, the upstream raw material, skyrocketed, causing the price increase of organic phosphorus products. Generally, with cautious and wait-and-see attitude, and the downward trend of the market, procurement dwindled. In August, pesticide inventory continued expanding, as the export demand has not increased significantly and domestic operating rates stabilized. Price decline of pesticide technical accelerated, but in Sichuan province, the price of glyphosate technical rose sharply and was in short supply, affected by floods. In September, export prices of pesticide hovered at low level. Specifically, the price of herbicide was stable, while prices of insecticide and fungicide kept going down.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's analyze the price of each pesticide category. Number 1 is herbicide. In Q1 to Q3 2020, the prices of herbicide technical remained low and stable overall, but they fell sharply compared to the same period last year. In Q1, the price of non-selective herbicide increased, but that of amide herbicide remained at a low level. Although the supply of some selective herbicide was tight in Q2, there was basically little demand at the end of the peak season, and the market began to enter the off-season. Thereinto, the price of amide herbicide remained low while entering the off-season. Prices of some herbicide products showed a downward trend in Q3, but the prices of non-selective herbicide rose. Take an example of glyphosate. Let's track its price trend in 2020. In January 2020, ex-works price of glyphosate technical suffered a continued price decline in Q4 2019. However, affected by poor logistics and transportation, glyphosate technical was in short supply and the price began to rise in February. In Q2, the price of glyphosate technical fell and remained low. However, the price rebounded sharply in Q3, mainly powered by the flood disaster in Sichuan province. Some manufacturers had to delay delivery or even did not accept new orders. Besides, the increasing demand in overseas market drove the supply tighter. As of September, the stock of glyphosate technical on the market was low, and manufacturers affected by the floods have not resumed production. Completely different from the glyphosate price trend on the whole, the price of glufosinate ammonium technical showed an upward trend from January to September 2020. According to CCM's price monitoring data, the supply of glufosinate ammonium was tight in February, as the upstream production capacity of the product was mainly concentrated in Hubei province, the epicenter of COVID-19 epidemic in China. With eased COVID-19 situation in China in Q2, the price became stable, but the supply was still tight. Seeing continued tight supply of glufosinate ammonium technical, some manufacturers raised their quotation prices.
Except above two products, what has attracted more attention in recent years is clothing. After experiencing a sharp drop in the end of 2019 due to reduced export orders and increased production capacity, the export price of clothing technical in China remained at a low level in January to February of 2020. In March, owing to production suspension and maintenance in some manufacturers, the overall operating rate of clothing technical turned insufficient. Besides, the supply of main raw materials was tight, resulting in price increase of clothing technical. In Q2, the ex-US price of clothing technical stayed above $17,000 per ton, but it was still far below that in late last year. Entering Q3, the tight supply of raw materials was eased in upgoing operating rate, so the price of clothing technical fell again. Another contributor to the price fall was that more new production capacity had been launched. Overall, the price remained low in Q3. Let's look at the insecticides. From January to September of 2020, the ex-US prices of insecticide technical in China generally showed a downward trend. In Q1, due to sluggish overseas demand and high inventories, prices of nicotine insecticides continued to decline. The supply of pyrethroid technical was tight and the price was stable, while the inventory decreased. In addition, the price of organic phosphorus insecticide increased, affected by the increased demand. Due to sluggish overseas demand and high inventory of nicotine insecticides, the prices fell sharply in Q2. Although the upstream 3-phenoxy benzaldehyde was still affected by the epidemic in India and the import was relatively difficult, the price of pyrethroids dropped due to the sluggish demand. Besides, thanks to the increase in demand, organic phosphorus insecticides maintained an upward trend. In Q3, the prices of nicotine insecticides remained low. The prices of pyrethroids products continued to fall, affected by the sharp increase in yellow phosphorus price, and the price of organic phosphorus insecticide rose accordingly.
Yes, in Q1 to Q3 2020, China's nicotinic insecticides saw continued decline in price due to low export demands and high inventories. Among them, the market inventory of imidacloprid technical was still high, and its ex-works price showed a downward trend overall during the period. Notably, the price of imidacloprid technical in Q2 to Q3 2020 fell significantly. The ex-works price of chlorpyrifos technical in China continued to rise in Q1 2020. This was mainly due to the increase in market demand for chlorpyrifos technical, and there were fewer stocks which led to tight supply and higher price. With the increase in the operating rate of manufacturers in Q2 and the slowdown in overseas market demand, the ex-works price of chlorpyrifos technical declined. In Q3, chlorpyrifos technical export demand was relatively stable, but at the same time it entered the off-season, and its price hovered at a low level. In Q1 to Q3 2020, Fipro non-technical was still export-oriented, and its ex-works price showed a downward trend overall. How about fungicide? Let's see. In Q1 to Q3 2020, the ex-works price of fungicide technical went up first, but then turned down overall. Affected by environmental protection policies, the operating rates of fungicide technical manufacturers were insufficient. In Q1, the prices of most fungicides increased. In Q2, the overall operating rate of fungicide manufacturers was still insufficient. Compared with herbicide and insecticide, the ex-works price of fungicide was still at a relatively high level. In Q3, with off-season coming, the demand of fungicide and the price subside. Prices of some products kept falling.
Yes, let's check some main fungicide products. In Q1, tebuconazole technical manufacturers' operating rates and inventory were low. The increase in market demand led to tight supply and continued price increase. In Q2, after a short rising up, the price of tebuconazole technical fell quickly. In April, due to small increase in the operating rates of manufacturers, the prices of upstream intermediates remained high. In May, with more production, the supply of goods in the market was sufficient, and the wait-and-see attitude was obvious among buyers. Therefore, the price of tebuconazole technical declined rapidly. In Q3, due to still increasing operating rates and inventory, the price of tebuconazole technical maintained a downward trend. The ex-US price of azoxystrobin technical showed an overall downward trend. Compared with the price late last year, the price of azoxystrobin technical in Q1 slowed down its downtrend, thanks to the tight supply of upstream intermediates. In Q2, the price of azoxystrobin technical was relatively stable, with the supply being stable. Azoxystrobin entered the off-season in Q3. Market inventory increased, while the price began to decline. In Q1 to Q3 of 2020, the ex-US price of chlorothalonil technical in China showed a continuous downward trend. Compared with those late last year, the price decline of chlorothalonil technical slowed down in Q1, thanks to the tight supply of upstream intermediates. In Q2, price decline of chlorothalonil technical accelerated and slowed down again in Q3.
Yeah, we can say there are some effects caused by the pandemic, whatever to the supply, demand, or the price. Let's get to the last topic, market situation of October 2020. At the end of October, prices of numerous herbicides in China experienced declines. Especially, prices of some amide herbicide went upward due to increasing material costs and decreasing manufacturers' operating rate, thus the downstream formulation manufacturers start to increase inventory. In late October, domestic demand for herbicide weakened generally, with herbicide price down slightly month-on-month. Herbicide application in China is coming to an end. Thus, formulation companies are mainly selling inventory. The export of herbicide is hindered due to the pandemic of COVID-19. It's hard for the declining demand to support the price of domestic agrochemical products when off-season came.
Domestic ex-US price of insecticide technical stabilized during National Agrochemical Exchange meeting and agrochemical exhibition. Especially, price of organophosphorus insecticides technical became steady January. Inventory of major nicotinamide insecticides such as imidacloprid technical and acetamiprid technical was still high after decreases, and their prices turned stable from decline. Price of pyrethroids insecticide technical went down a bit. Currently, no obvious change is seen in demand and supply relation of insecticide technical in China. Thus, the price is expected to keep steady in short term. After the National Day holiday, domestic insecticide technical producer maintained normal production as that before the holiday. However, the operating rate was low on the whole. Specifically, producers of organophosphorus insecticide technical ran normally with low operating rate. Producers of nicotinamide insecticide technical actively adjusted operating rates according to sales. Producers of pyrethroids insecticide technical were not so enthusiastic about production because of poor sales of most products.
At the end of October, agrochemical buyers start replenishing their stock, which had eased the producer's inventory. During the same period, the price of fungicide in China remained stable with slight decrease across the board. In terms of triazone fungicide, most products experienced a drop in their price, except for tebuconazole technical, whose price increased slightly. In terms of strobilurin fungicide, the prices of some products remained stable. In mid-October, despite the weak demand for fungicide technical, most fungicide manufacturers in China have maintained normal production, and some even increased their operating rates. It's time for the producers to get their goods ready again. Most of them have implemented policies to keep the price unchanged, which will contribute to more deals.
Okay, that leads us to the end of our today's webinar. We're going to wrap it up here. The above contents are available from CCM Reports, Pesticide Price Analysis in China. If you have any questions, please type it in on the chat box or just contact your CCM contact us and then we'll follow up your needs. Please don't hesitate to contact us and get subscriptions. Thanks for having you.